Okay, so we talked already about a tangent. A tangent is a line that touches the circle in how many points?
2, 1.
And then a chord has its endpoints on the circle, and it touches it in 2 points. Well, a secant is a line that also touches it in 2 points. However, it goes through the circle. It doesn't end on the circle's edge, if that makes sense. So, for example, maybe if I have a circle, this line would be considered a chord, whereas this line would be considered a secant. You see the difference? They both touch the circle in 2 places. It's just the secant extends past the circle and the chord does not. Okay, and then the first theorem that we are going to talk about angles that are formed inside of a circle, it says the measure of an angle formed by 2 lines that intersect inside the circle, whether they're chords or secants, is half the sum of the measures of the intercepted arcs. Okay, and I have those labeled a little bit there, and I will explain in just a minute once everybody has a chance to draw the picture. Adam, have you have this picture drawn, or are you on your phone because you just don't want to write it down? You have the whole picture? Okay, the measure of an angle formed by 2 lines that intersect inside a circle is half the sum of the measures of the intercepted arc. So what I want you to do first is, does everybody see the angle that I have labeled as angle 1 right here? Okay, this angle right here. Okay. Its intercepted arcs are the ones that are in line with that angle, not opposite the angle, but in line with the angle. So if I'm talking about its intercepted arcs, I'm talking about this arc here and this arc here. Okay, and what this says, it says that the measure of angle 1, whatever that angle is going to be half of the sum of the arc called X and the arc called Y. So for example, if I put 60 here and 80 here, and I asked you to find the measure of angle 1, what you would do is you would add those 2 arcs together, 60 plus 80, and then you would take half of it or divide it by 2. What's half of 140?
70.
So that angle would be 70. Okay, does that make a little bit of sense?
I mean, it makes sense, but how does it work? Because in the other one
It was half of the 1 arc. Okay, so the difference is this angle right here, this angle 1 is inside of my circle, whereas the angles, the inscribed angles that we were talking about were on the circle. Do you see the difference? The vertex there is on the circle for an inscribed, whereas these that we're talking about, they're inside the circle. Okay, Sebastian?
So where angle 1 is, that point, that's not the center, right? Because if it were the center, that wouldn't be true, right?
Correct. Well, it still would be true in the center, but central angles are also equal to their arcs.
Yeah.
What you would have, because what would happen is you would have vertical angles, they'd have the same arc, so you'd add them and divide by 2, it'd still be the same single one. But no, that is not the center because it does not have a dot there. Okay, is everybody okay with that one? Okay, now, what if, just before we move on, what if I wanted to know this angle? Would I use the same 2 arcs? No, I want to use the ones in line with that angle. So I would have to use this top arc and this bottom arc because they're like in line with the angle. That's what I mean by in line with it.
Yes.
Does that make a little bit of sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right, here is another theorem. I'm going to give you a minute to write that down. We're going to learn about several different angles today and how to find. Okay, this time it says the measure of an angle formed by 2 lines that intersect outside of a circle. My angle this time is outside of my circle, not inside of my circle. Then it is half the difference of the measures of the intercepted arcs. Okay, so the one we just did before, the angle was inside my circle. I added my arcs and took half of that. This one, my angle is outside of my circle, so I'm going to subtract my arcs. Obviously, bigger arc minus smaller arc. Otherwise, you end up with negative numbers.
So, it says X plus Y, but
It's supposed to say X minus Y. Yeah, that's supposed to say X minus Y, not X plus Y. That's a typo. All right, so my angle 1, is outside of my circle. It is this angle right out here. That's what I'm trying to find the measure of. It's intercepted arcs. The bigger one is always going to be the one on the far outside. And then we're going to subtract the smaller one. That's the one on the inside. And we're going to take half of it. So the measure of angle 1, I'm going to rewrite this since it's messed up, is equal to 1/2 the bigger arc, which is x, the outside one, minus the smaller arc. Don't put a plus. Check your notes. Make sure you wrote minus and not plus, please. Okay, so if this were 90 and this were 30, what would the measure of my angle be?
30.
Right, 90 minus 30, which is 60, but we want then half of that, so it would be 30. Okay, so keep in mind, angles inside the circle, you add the arcs and divide by 2. If the angle is outside of the circle, you subtract the arcs and divide by 2. Is everybody okay with that?
Where'd you get 90?
I made it up. All right, so keeping these two in mind, they're going to be just like the two examples that I kind of did with you when you wrote your theorems down. Find x, if it's up to you on whether you want to draw the picture or not. And we'll just go ahead and answer this question. No, I'm not letting you use your notes on your test next Tuesday. The only reason I let you use it on your review, on your quiz is because we did not have a day of review. We'll have a day of review. We will have a day of review on Monday. All right, number 1. My angle is where? Inside or outside of my circle? Where's it? It's inside. So what am I going to do to my two arcs? Add them. So I'm going to add the 40 and the 60. Right? They're in line with the angle, right? That gives me 100, and then I do take half of that, which is going to give me what for x? 50. Okay. Number 2, where is the angle that I'm looking for? It's outside, so that's when we subtract. So we take our bigger arc, which is 60, minus our smaller arc, which is 40. That gives us 20, and we take half of that, so x is going to be 10. So far, so good. All right. Try those two. The angle that I'm trying to find, inside or outside? Outside. So we're going to have to subtract our arcs, but we need to pay attention. First of all, look at your angle, okay? I'm highlighting my angle. Here it is. Does everybody see my angle? The outside arc, or the big arc, is this one right here, correct? The inside arc is this one here. Those are the two that I need to subtract, but I don't know all of those two. How do you find a 60?
360 minus 300.
Okay. Where'd you get 300 from? Okay. So if you can see, with all my highlighting, from here all the way around to here, we know how many degrees those two arcs are, correct? One's 100, one's 200. That gives me a total of 300, which leaves me with that green arc that's left. And because we know a circle is 360, we know that that arc is going to be 60. And so then we're just going to do 100 minus 60 divided by 2, which gives me a total of what for that arc or angle? 20. Okay. All right, number 4. Is my angle inside or outside? Outside, okay. I need the big arc minus the small arc, but I don't know both of my arcs. How do I find that small arc? 360 minus 260, which tells me it's going to be 100. So then we're going to go 260 minus 100, which gives me 160, and we take how much of that? Half, and so that gives me 80. Is everybody okay with that? It's you subtract the arcs and then take half of it. So we did 260 minus 100. Do you know where I got the 100 from? Okay. So 260 minus 100 gives me 160, but then I need half of that. Half of 160 is 80. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I am not looking for my angle measure, but the process is still the same. Where is my angle? It's inside my circle, is it not? Okay, look, in your circle, the angle's inside. So that means I have to add my two arcs. So I'm going to make myself a little equation, and I know some of you probably did not do it this way, but I'm just showing you the proper way to do it. Now, if you can figure it out in your head, that's okay too, as long as you can explain it to me. What are my two arcs?
80.
X and 80. So I'm adding those two arcs, right? And then I divide it by 2, and then that's going to equal my angle, which is how much? 60. So I'm setting myself up a nice little equation. Okay, and then I can just solve it for x. I got to get rid of that divided by 2, so we're going to multiply by 2 first, yes? 60 times 2 is 120, and so then we subtract our 80 over, yep. And we figure out that that arc is going to be 40. Now, some of you probably looked at the picture and said, okay, I'm going to double 60, that gives me 120, and I'm going to take 80 from it, it leaves me with 40. That's exactly what we just did. We just didn't set up an equation when we did that. Okay, look. Do you see the blue equation that I wrote? The first thing they do is they double 60, which is what I did with my equation, right? And then I take and subtract the 80 from it. So it's actually what we're doing. It's just not in an equation. It's in my head. Right. Okay, now what marking in this picture for number 6 is important? How do you know it's the diameter? Because it goes through my center. My center is marked. Okay, so that means at the top, all of this is how much? 180. So that first part is going to be 120. And so then we would just say 120 plus or minus? Minus 60 divided by 2 equals x. And so that's going to give me Is everybody okay with that? Every time, the first thing you want to look at, whether you're finding the angle or whether you're finding an arc, where is your angle? Is it inside? Is it outside? Because that tells you if you're supposed to add your arcs or subtract your arcs. Does everybody understand? Uh-huh. You good? Okay. These are both, I thought these were more difficult. Hold on, let me see what I got. Yeah, we're skipping some, but I was just seeing what else I had. Hold on. Yeah, I want you to do, actually, we're going to do all 4 of them. So try these 2 first, and then we'll have, why would I make you get the notes if I'm not going to give you the opportunity? But next time, stand up for yourself and say, I'm not ready to take it, I don't have my notes. Okay? All right, are we ready? Oh, come on.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, we will